It's just some cheap jewelry from a discount store, my mother said, tossing the small velvet box into the trash without even opening it. You don't need to waste money on me anymore. I watched the box land on top of coffee grounds and yesterday's leftovers, and I quietly said, "You're right, Mom. I don't." She had no idea what she'd just thrown away, or what I was about to do next. My name is Serena Whitmore, and I'm 32 years old. I didn't think a single moment could reshape 3 decades of trying to earn my mother's approval, but there I was, standing in her cramped kitchen in Millbrook Heights, staring at a trash can that contained more than just a discarded gift. It held every birthday where she'd criticized my choices, every achievement she'd minimized, every time she'd made me feel like nothing I did would ever be good enough. Vivian Whitmore had always been a woman of strong opinions and stronger disappointments. Growing up in her shadow in our small house on Magnolia Street, I learned early that love came with conditions, praise came with criticism attached, and no matter what I accomplished, it was never quite right. When I graduated valedictorian from Millbrook High, she complained that my speech was too long. When I got accepted to State University with a partial scholarship, she worried aloud about the debt I'd accumulate. When I landed my first job at Henderson Marketing Group in downtown Portland, she asked why I couldn't find something closer to home. But this Thursday evening in November was different. This was supposed to be the moment when all those years of striving finally paid off. After 5 grueling years of 60-hour weeks, missed dinners, and sacrificed weekends, I'd finally gotten the promotion I'd been chasing, Senior Account Director at Henderson Marketing, with a salary that would let me breathe for the first time in my adult life. The promotion came with a catch, though. It meant relocating to their Seattle office within 6 months. When I called Mom from my cubicle that Tuesday afternoon, barely able to contain my excitement, I thought she'd be proud. Finally, her daughter was making something of herself. Finally, I had news that would make her smile. "Seattle," was the first thing she said. Not congratulations, not I'm proud of you, just Seattle, in that tone she used when I'd tracked mud on her clean floors as a kid. "It's an incredible opportunity, Mom. The salary is almost double what I'm making now. I'll be managing a team of 12 people. It's everything I've worked toward." "And," she said, I could hear her washing dishes in the background, the same way she always multitasked during our calls, never giving me her full attention. "I suppose that's what you want, to get as far away from your family as possible." Family, that was rich. It had been just Mom and me since Dad died when I was 16. My older brother Marcus had moved to Denver right after college and called maybe 3 times a year. Family dinners were me sitting across from Mom while she critiqued everything from my posture to my career choices. "Mom, it's not about getting away. It's about building a future." She'd said, and I could picture her pursing her lips the way she did when she disapproved but didn't want to say so directly. "Well, I suppose you'll do what you want anyway. You always do." That conversation had stung, but I told myself she'd come around. She always did eventually. So when my first official paycheck came through on Friday, the one with my new title and new salary, I decided to do something special, something that would show her how much our relationship meant to me, despite everything. I spent my entire lunch break that day at Thornfield Jewelers, the little shop on Oak Street where Dad used to buy Mom's Christmas presents. Mrs. Chen, the owner, remembered me from when I was little. "Serena, my goodness, look at you. Your father would be so proud." She beamed at me from behind the counter, her silver hair perfectly styled despite her 70-something years. "I hope so, Mrs. Chen. I'm looking for something special for my mom. I just got promoted and I want to celebrate with her." Mrs. Chen's eyes lit up. She'd always been a romantic about family relationships, probably because her own children lived across the country. "How wonderful! What did you have in mind?" That's when I saw it. A delicate silver necklace with a pendant featuring Mom's birthstone, a deep blue sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. It wasn't flashy or ostentatious, just elegant and timeless, exactly Mom's style. "Can you engrave something on the back?" I asked. "Of course, dear. What would you like?" I thought for a moment. "To Mom with love and gratitude. Always, Serena." The engraving cost extra, and the whole thing came to $847, almost exactly what I had left in my checking account after rent and bills. But it felt right. It felt like the kind of gesture that might finally bridge the gap between us. Mrs. Chen wrapped it in a beautiful navy velvet box with gold trim. "She's going to love it," she assured me. Mothers always treasure gifts from their daughters. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Thursday evening, I drove over to Mom's house with the gift tucked safely in my purse. The autumn air was crisp, and the trees along Magnolia Street were showing off their gold and crimson leaves. I felt lighter than I had in months, maybe years. For once, I had genuinely good news to share and a beautiful gift to mark the occasion. Mom's house looked the same as always. The small brick ranch with white shutters that she'd kept exactly the way it was when Dad was alive. The same flower beds, now dormant for winter. The same ceramic gnome by the front steps that I'd begged her to put away for years. Everything frozen in time, just like our relationship. I let myself in through the side door, the way I'd been doing since I was tall enough to reach the handle. "Mom, it's me." "In the kitchen," she called back. I found her at the sink, washing her dinner dishes even though it was barely 6 o'clock. She'd always eaten early, another habit from Dad's days when he got home from the factory at 4:30. "Hey, Mom." I kissed her cheek, noting the way she barely paused in her scrubbing. "How was your day?" "Fine, same as always." She rinsed a plate and set it in the drying rack with precision. "What brings you by? You don't usually visit on weekdays." Here it was, my moment. "I wanted to celebrate with you. My promotion became official today, and I got my first paycheck with the new salary." She nodded, still focused on the dishes. "That's nice, dear." Nice. My life-changing career advancement was nice. I took a deep breath and pulled out the velvet box. "I wanted to get you something special to mark the occasion, something to say thank you for everything you've done for me over the years." That got her attention. She turned from the sink, wiping her hands on a dish towel, and looked at the box I was holding out to her. "Serena, you don't need to." "I wanted to, Mom. Please, just open it." She took the box, and for a moment, I thought I saw something soften in her expression. She held it for a few seconds, feeling its weight, and I held my breath. Then she set it down on the counter without opening it. "You know I don't need jewelry, Serena. I barely go anywhere to wear the pieces I already have." "But Mom, just look at it. I think you'll really—" "It's just some cheap jewelry from a discount store," she said, and before I could process what was happening, she'd picked up the box and tossed it into the trash can beside the counter. It landed with a soft thud on top of coffee grounds and yesterday's leftovers. "You don't need to waste money on me anymore." The world stopped. I stared at the trash can, at the navy velvet box now stained with coffee and God knows what else. The box that contained 3 months of saving, a piece of my heart, an attempt to finally connect with the woman who'd given me life but never seemed to see me as more than an obligation. "You're right, Mom," I heard myself say, my voice surprisingly steady. "I don't." She'd already turned back to the dishes, dismissing both me and my gesture with the efficiency she applied to everything in her life. "Good. You should save your money for your move to Seattle. That city is expensive from what I hear." I stood there for another moment, watching her scrub a pot that was already clean, watching her pretend that what had just happened was normal, that throwing away your daughter's gift without even looking at it was just practical thinking. Something fundamental shifted inside my chest. It wasn't anger. Anger was too hot, too immediate. This was colder, cleaner. This was clarity. I'd spent 32 years trying to earn something from this woman that she was never going to give me. I'd twisted myself into shapes, achieved things I thought would impress her, sacrificed my own wants and needs to be the daughter I thought she wanted. And for what? So she could throw my love in the trash without even looking at it? For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't going to try to explain. I wasn't going to defend myself or my choices. I wasn't going to fish that box out of the trash and show her the engraving.
show her that it wasn't cheap jewelry from a discount store, but a carefully chosen piece from the place where Dad used to shop for her. I wasn't going to beg for her approval or understanding. Instead, I picked up my purse from the counter where I'd set it down when I arrived full of hope just 10 minutes earlier. "I should go," I said. "All right, dear, drive safely." I kissed her cheek one more time, breathing in the familiar scent of her lavender hand cream and the faint smell of the coffee that was now mingling with my discarded gift. "I'll see you later, Mom," I said. She nodded absently, already wiping down counters that didn't need wiping. I walked to the side door, the same door I'd walked through thousands of times over the years, carrying scraped knees and hurt feelings, report cards and college acceptance letters, hopes and disappointments. I paused for just a moment with my hand on the doorknob, giving her one last chance to call me back, to ask about the gift, to show even the smallest amount of curiosity about what I'd tried to give her. But she didn't. I stepped out into the November evening, closing the door behind me with a soft click. The air was colder now, and the street lamps were starting to flicker on. I walked to my car, a modest sedan that I'd bought used 3 years ago and had been planning to upgrade now that my finances were improving. Now I realized I wouldn't need to worry about what Mom thought of my choices anymore.
As I drove away from Magnolia Street for what I didn't yet know would be the last time, I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry. I was just done. 32 years of trying to prove my worth to someone who would never see it had come to an end in a kitchen that smelled like coffee and disappointment. What Mom didn't know, what she couldn't have known as she went back to her evening routine of washing dishes and watching the news, was that later would never come. What I didn't know, sitting in my car at the red light on Elm Street, was that within 48 hours, my phone would start buzzing with messages from the woman who had just thrown away the last chance she would ever get to be part of my life. The first message would come Saturday morning, then another Saturday evening. By Monday, there would be 3. By the end of the week, she'd be calling. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, I had to pack. I need to take you back 3 weeks before that kitchen disaster, because understanding how I got to that trash can moment requires knowing who Vivian Whitmore really was and who I'd been trying so desperately to become for her. The promotion had come through on a Tuesday morning in early November. I was sitting in my cramped cubicle at Henderson Marketing when Rebecca Torres, the regional director, tapped on my desk partition. "Serena, can you come to my office for a minute?" My stomach dropped. In my 5 years at Henderson, being called to Rebecca's office usually meant bad news. Budget cuts, project failures, someone complaining about my work. I followed her down the hallway, mentally preparing for whatever critique was coming. "Close the door," she said, settling behind her desk with a smile I couldn't read. I perched on the edge of the chair across from her, my hands folded in my lap like a schoolchild waiting for a grade. "The Seattle office expansion is moving faster than we anticipated," Rebecca began. "They need someone with your expertise to head up the new client acquisition division, senior account director position. Salary starts at $95,000, plus benefits and relocation assistance." The words hit me like a physical blow. $95,000. That was more than double what I was making. More money than I'd ever imagined earning. "Are you offering me the position?" I managed to ask. Rebecca's smile widened. "I'm not offering it, Serena. I'm giving it to you. You've earned this. Your client retention rate is the highest in the region. Your presentations are flawless, and frankly, you've been doing senior director work for years without the title or compensation." I sat there trying to process the words. After 5 years of arriving early, staying late, taking on extra projects, volunteering for the assignments no one else wanted, finally, someone had noticed. "There's a 6-month timeline for the transition," Rebecca continued. "We'll need you to finish the Morrison campaign here first, then you can relocate whenever works best for you. The Seattle team is excited to have you." I floated through the rest of the workday in a daze. Senior account director? Nearly 6 figures. Recognition for years of grinding work that had often gone unnoticed.
When I finally made it back to my apartment that evening, I sat on my secondhand couch and called the one person I most wanted to share this news with. "Hi, Mom." "Serena, what's wrong? You sound strange." Even my excitement was interpreted as something wrong. "Nothing's wrong, Mom. I have incredible news." "Oh." I could hear her turning down the television. "What kind of news?" "I got promoted, senior account director at Henderson Marketing. They're moving me to the Seattle office." Silence. Then, "Seattle? That's far." Not "congratulations," not "I'm proud of you." Her first thought was about inconvenience. "It's a huge opportunity, Mom. The salary is amazing, and I'll be managing my own team." Well, I suppose that's good for you." Suppose? Like my career breakthrough was a minor lifestyle choice, rather than the culmination of years of work. "I thought maybe we could celebrate," I said, hearing the hopeful note in my voice that I hated. "I could take you out to dinner this weekend." "We'll see. I have my book club on Saturday, and Sunday I usually meal prep for the week." Book club that she'd mentioned exactly once in the past year. Meal prep that consisted of making herself the same 3 rotating dinners she'd been eating since Dad died. "Okay," I said. "Maybe during the week sometime." Maybe. I hung up feeling deflated instead of celebrated. But I told myself it was just her way. Vivian Whitmore had never been effusive with praise. She'd grown up in a household where emotions were kept in check, where excitement was seen as unseemly. Dad used to joke that getting her to admit she was happy was like pulling teeth. But this was different. This was her daughter, achieving something significant, something that would change my entire financial situation and career trajectory. This deserved more than "I suppose that's good for you." That's when I decided on the gift. I'd been thinking about it for months, actually. Every time I walked past Thornfield Jewelers on my lunch breaks, I'd stop and look at the pieces in the window. Mom rarely wore jewelry anymore, hadn't since Dad died, but I remembered how she used to light up when he'd surprise her with something special. Christmas mornings when I was little, watching her face as she opened those small boxes from Thornfield's. The way she'd actually smile without reservation.
Maybe that was what was missing. Maybe she needed to feel special again, valued, remembered. Maybe if I could recreate even a fraction of that joy Dad used to give her, she'd finally see me as more than just the daughter who called too much and tried too hard. The promotion gave me the means to do something meaningful. For the first time in my adult life, I could afford to be generous without worrying about rent or groceries. My first paycheck with the new salary was going to be substantial, enough to pay my bills and still have money left over for something special. I'd already decided what I wanted to do with it. For 3 weeks, I carried that secret like a precious stone. I researched the perfect piece, visited Mrs. Chen twice to look at options, even sketched out what I wanted the engraving to say. I was going to give Mom something beautiful and meaningful, something that showed how much I appreciated everything she'd done to raise me, alone after Dad died. The promotion was just the vehicle. The real gift was going to be the gesture itself, proof that her daughter had succeeded enough to take care of her now, proof that all her sacrifices had been worth it. I imagined her reaction 100 times, her surprise when she opened the box, maybe tears when she read the engraving, definitely a hug, the kind of real hug we hadn't shared since I was small. And then we'd talk, really talk, about my new job, my move to Seattle, what this meant for our relationship going forward. I imagined her being proud, actually proud, not just politely acknowledging my news like it was an interesting but irrelevant piece of information. Those 3 weeks were some of the happiest I'd felt in years, not just because of the promotion, but because I finally had a plan to bridge the gap between Mom and me. I finally had something valuable enough to offer, something that would show her I wasn't just the needy daughter who never quite measured up to her expectations. I should have known better. I'd been trying to earn Vivian Whitmore's approval for 32 years, and it had never worked before. But success has a way of making you optimistic, of convincing you that this time will be different. This time, I had enough. This time, I could afford to be the generous one. This time, she'd have to see me differently.
I was wrong about everything except the seeing me differently part. She definitely saw me differently after that Thursday night. She just didn't see me at all anymore. Let me take you back to those 3 weeks between getting the promotion and that devastating Thursday night, because understanding the depth of my hope makes what happened in that kitchen even more brutal. The moment I hung up from that lukewarm conversation with Mom about my promotion, I knew I had to do something bigger, something that would cut through her perpetual indifference and show her that her daughter had finally made it, that all those years of quiet disappointment and subtle criticism had actually produced something worthy of her pride. I started planning the perfect gesture. Every lunch break, I'd walk past Thornfield Jewelers and press my nose to the window like a kid at a candy store. Mrs. Chen would wave at me from behind the counter, probably wondering why I kept circling back but never came inside. I was waiting for the right moment, waiting until I had that first paycheck with my new salary in my account. I researched sapphires online during slow workdays. Did you know they symbolize wisdom and loyalty? I thought that was perfect. Mom had always been practical, logical, the voice of reason in our house. And loyalty, well, despite everything, I'd never stopped trying with her. Never stopped hoping she'd soften, that she'd see me the way Dad used to see me. I drafted the engraving message 17 different times. Love always felt too simple. Thank you for everything seemed too generic. To the woman who made me who I am felt too loaded with meaning she might not want to acknowledge. Finally, I settled on, to Mom with love and gratitude. Always, Serena. Simple but heartfelt. Something she couldn't misinterpret or dismiss. For 3 weeks, I carried this secret like a warm stone in my pocket. I'd catch myself smiling during mundane tasks, grocery shopping, doing laundry, sitting in traffic, because I was thinking about her face when she opened that box. In my imagination, she'd gasp, maybe even tear up. She'd put it on immediately and tell me it was the most beautiful thing anyone had ever given her. We'd sit at her kitchen table afterwards, drinking the good tea she saved for special occasions, and really talk for the first time in years. She'd ask about Seattle, about my new responsibilities, about whether she was scared or excited. She'd tell me she was proud of me. Not, I suppose that's good, or if that's what you want, but actual pride. The kind of maternal warmth I'd been craving since I was old enough to understand that other mothers looked at their daughters differently than mine looked at me. I even planned what I'd wear. The navy dress she'd complimented once 3 years ago, the one she said made me look put together. I wanted everything to be perfect. This was going to be our turning point. The moment our relationship shifted from dutiful daughter visiting obligated mother to 2 women who genuinely enjoyed each other's company.
The night before I went to her house, I could barely sleep. I kept the velvet box on my nightstand so I could look at it when I woke up, reminding myself that in less than 24 hours, I'd finally have given my mother something she truly valued, something that proved I understood her, appreciated her, loved her enough to spend my entire discretionary income on making her feel special. I was so naive, so desperately, pathetically naive. Because what I was really planning wasn't just a gift. It was a test I'd set up without realizing it, with stakes I couldn't see until it was too late. I was betting our entire relationship on a moment, on her reaction to a gesture she never asked for, and apparently never wanted. The cruelest part is that if someone had warned me, if they'd said, "Serena, what if she doesn't react the way you hope?" I would have laughed. Not because I was sure she'd love it, but because I couldn't imagine her being actually cruel about it. Indifferent, maybe. Underwhelmed, possibly, but not cruel. I should have known better. After 32 years of evidence, I should have known exactly who Vivian Whitmore was and what she was capable of. But hope has a way of making you stupid, and I was so hopeful.